beverage. A hop if you wanna just bounce to my leverage. The evidence, as they say, is in the pudding. So show me the money like my name was Cuba.
Hello and welcome to episode 47 of Entrepreneur Stories. In this episode, I interview Louie Lavelle. Louie is a club promoter, a concert promoter, a festival promoter, and we get into how he has done this over his time in the entertainment industry over the last couple of years. Louie got his start when he was 18 doing club promotion. He's been able to leverage that and expand that into doing festival promotion, bigger concerts, and he gets into how he's been able to promote and build an audience around a festival or a band or an idea that's able to sell tickets. And I found this very interesting as someone who enjoys crowdfunding, in how can social media be used to build that crowd, build that audience, that tribe around what you're trying to do. So the interview kind of turns into almost consulting, where I begin to talk to Louie about my company, the Breton Company, and what we're trying to do and how we're trying to interact with our audience. I had a great time interviewing Louie. So without further ado, please enjoy this interview. Welcome to the podcast today. We'd like to welcome Louie Lavelle onto the episode today. Louie, how you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time and having me, and everyone listening. Thank you guys as well for taking the time to listen.
Awesome. So Louie, you do marketing in the entertainment world. Now that I don't think that completely explains what you do. How about you give us kind of like your quick pitch of
Sounds
what
good.
exactly it is you do?
Yes, yeah, the very quick answer, and a lot of people, so what is it that you do? And you're right, it's marketing and branding in the entertainment world. But to kind of dig a little bit deeper without going for an hour on all the things that I have my hands into, it really is marketing and strategies of branding that comes down to concerts, festivals, and musicians. So, when somebody's having a festival or a concert, I used to do a lot of nightclub venues, but more of the bigger venues now, and they really need to produce a large-scale event and sell 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 tickets, something like that. I can direct the marketing, create the strategy, and actually execute it as well. And similar when it comes down to, like musicians and celebrities, things like that, how to strategize your personal brand as an A-lister or C-lister or whatever it's going to be, and grow that into something that's, like in the entertainment world, it's tough to break into. How do you break free from the noise, right?
Yeah. Well,
that's kind of what I do. Yes, in a nutshell.
So when you were like 18 and you're kind of trying to figure out what you wanted to do, was that what you wanted to do?
Yeah,
or
I was going to
this
say,
kinda...
at 17, 18, I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
Serious?
So,
wow.
Yes. That's kind of when I started, that the late high school, very early college days. You know how everybody has that part-time job, and whether it's a retail store or your bartender, things like that.
Yeah.
I got right into the nightlife industry, but not a bartender. I've never bartended in my life or anything like that. I got right into the event promotion business. So I really was a promoter as a kid, handing up flyers, trying to work on little events. It wasn't, not that it wasn't for me, but I wanted to level up. And I knew if I wanted to do entertainment industry, I can't be a promoter all my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like very, very quickly, I broke out of that and got into running my own events, which is now, investing your own money, creating a business and hiring promoters under me to work, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I started way back in the day. And then through that, I got into radio and television and now concerts, and all that was music oriented and entertainment oriented. So I kind of had that clear vision of, man, I really want to be in entertainment. And if I have that goal, man, and I have the consistency, I will get there, right?
Yeah. So what was the event that brought on that desire, I guess? Like where were you at, or what were you doing where you're like, oh, this is what I want to do for my career?
Yeah, when I was a little kid, with my brothers playing with G.I. Joes and dinky cars, when we were make-believing stuff, I still make-believe myself as having some entertainment-style company, a TV network or something to do with entertainment as a kid. So it's hard to pinpoint as a teenager or young adult, there was that one event that it's like, man, I really want to be a part of this. I know that every time I'm a part of an event, or I go to a concert, I feel like, man, this is a great, industry. I have fun in the middle of a concert and there's 30,000 people and you're like, this is awesome. You know, so every single time I'm a part of something or even go to somebody else's event or you know, learn or engage with celebrities, things like that, it just sticks in my head on how cool of a job it is, right? Even though there's some long consistency and hustle that has to go in it, and so it's a passion, right? And I think everybody kind of knows if you got a passion in something and you can really figure out how to make it monetize in it, then that's definitely where you need to be.
Yeah, that's very cool. So you started out in the entertainment industry. You were like a promoter, like handing out flyers and stuff. What was the first big event that you took on, like kind of more of a capital risk type thing that you had mentioned?
Yeah, there was a couple of big concerts that I did that were, you know, 1,500 people, 3,000 people, and it cost $20,000 to $50,000, and that's where I've invested a lot of money. And that was, you know, and those are people like, you know, LMFAO, Lil Jon, those kind of, you know, not the 15,000 person concerts, but that's as you're getting to those events, and they're large scale, you know, either outdoor events or big nightclubs, things like that. And you know, instead of using other people's money, which I wanted to do a lot, you know, sometimes, you know, people didn't want to throw money my way, so I used my own, and I did that a lot. Like you know, I wanted to get into radio as well as I was growing my entertainment kind of portfolio, I guess you could say. And, you know, it's tough to get into radio, and I'm handing out, you know, whatever, demo reels, things like that. And so I, you know, while I was waiting, I got impatient. I created my own top 10 countdown and I syndicated it myself, you know, and kind of broke those. I built the doors and broke them open myself. Same with television. I was in television for 10 seasons, and, you know, I wanted to be on TV and music television like MTV and Much Music in Canada. And yeah, there's only tiny bits of openings at very, very minute times. So instead of waiting it out, I produced my own TV show and pitched it, and they said, this is a cool show. Before we have time on our programming to put it on, you're a great host. Why don't you host? Beautiful. That was the goal anyways, right? So a lot of times I was wanting to get something done, and I literally built the door myself to open it instead of waiting around for it to happen, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's very cool, because I think a lot of people, they have an idea, and they say, that's a really cool idea. Maybe I'll do it someday, and then they never end up doing it.
Yeah,
and then they kind of
why,
exactly, and they kind of turn into the armchair entrepreneurs that will critique other people or say, "Oh, I could have done this, or I could have done that, or if only." What is it that causes you to just get up and go?
You know what? Something that happened when I was, I think, very early 20s, as I was, you know, kind of building my own business. And, you know, on the side, I had a corporate job that flew me around North America as a marketing director. And as I was building my entertainment, because, you know, you're just starting, you're investing your money. And that was only for like a couple of years, but it gave me some cool experience working with some executives, like CEOs of some huge companies, like some of the biggest ones you can think of. I had some contacts and work with them. But, you know, as I had my side business, I kept hearing from people, man, if I was your age, I'd start my own business too. Look how old I am. And I'm thinking, I am my age. Why don't I keep this going? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't want to be 40, 50 years old saying, man, if I was 20, I would have done this. And I'm like, I am 20 at the time, right?
Yes,
so I should keep doing this, right?
Yeah,
and I should grow this so that it doesn't, like you said, become the armchair entrepreneur, slip away, and then everything else distracts you, and then it gets harder to kind of get up and go, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That motivation was there, and it was kind of an eye opener on. Not to say that you have to do it at 20 or you're screwed. I'm just saying that that's kind of, for me, a constant reminder that's now in my head that I was, you know, told, man, if I was your age, I'd roll with this business. I'd start a business. That's great. And I'm thinking, yes, so I'm in the right spot. Let's do this, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, so where does like the go-getem attitude you have come from, though? I mean, because a lot of people, you know, even in their 20s, you know, people say, oh, I'm starting a business, and they'll run into a roadblock, say, oh, I need $30,000 to put together this concert with Little John. I don't have $30,000. That was fun while it lasted. I'll go do something else. Like, right. I mean, you know, like, you really, like, went after it. I mean, to put up that much capital for an event or something, you know, in your 20s, that's not easy, I'm assuming. Like, you really kind of got to make it stretch and make things work in those situations. So where does that come from?
My mom and dad are entrepreneurs. My uncle is an entrepreneur, so I grew up in that. But even then, my brothers aren't entrepreneurs, or my other uncles. So even though you could be surrounded by it, you still have to have it in your blood. So that's kind of the cruddy answer sometimes when you're talking entrepreneurship of how did you get that in your blood? Sometimes you just really have it, and your head doesn't even consider failures as failures. I get asked that every podcast. I do a lot of podcasts. What's your failures? And the first thing comes to my head is nothing. I know there's a million failures, but your head space doesn't think of them as actual failures, right? You think of just, of course I failed, but I just learned from it and moved on. And we could say that, but when you're really an entrepreneur, it actually makes sense. It actually doesn't. The losses don't affect you the same way. It's hard to explain, right? So to say, where do we get the motivation, or where did I get, or learn it? I guess it's always been inside to just keep driving. Like, it's just, there's no, like, now I have no clue, like, how I would ever, hand out a resume and work for somebody. I can make money out of thin air. I really can now. Like, even though it could be hard sometimes, or I can struggle at certain projects that aren't doing what I wanted to do, but my mind still thinks I can just make something out of thin air. And that's an entrepreneur. That's what they do. We find spots that need help or solutions to things, and we market it and hire the right people and go do it, right? So for me in the entertainment industry, which is a really tough nut to crack, I've been able to do that. So other industries, I am assuming are, from my experience going to another industry, become a little bit smoother or easier to kind of work with. Because I have other clients that are not just entertainment, friends and family, things like that are like, I don't like breaking out of my passion of entertainment, but it becomes like, oh, this is successful, because it becomes like, this is shark infested on this side. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, definitely. On this side, it's not shark infested. So all these tips and tools you can bring over seem to work really well, right? Which is kind of fun.
Yeah, definitely. That's fascinating. So one of the things that I read your bio, and it was talking about how you've kind of got to the spot where someone has an idea for a festival, they start working on it, they start growing it, and then they need someone to come in and help them sell tickets, and that's when they bring you in. Is that kind of your role? Is that kind of the role you've grown into a little bit, or you come in as a consultant and help out different festivals and concerts?
Yeah, I've done both. The ones where I really have my hands on, it's almost like an actual executive director role as well. Where I sit in on the meetings. Like some of the festivals, there's 6 of us that run everything. And even though I'm in the marketing side, because I have the experience, even myself, paying myself concerts and have all the weird stuff that goes on, I'm able to sit in those meetings and look at the plans and say, the porta potties should be here, not there. And you know what I mean? Like, I can expand my actual
definitely.
Help with not just saying, okay, cool, you want to sell tickets? Well, this is how much radio I would buy. This is how many billboards I would buy. That's my expertise, but I have a little bit wider experience. So, and then other ones are like you mentioned as well. They have the production down pat and they know what they're up to, and they have other people, and they literally need help on executing the marketing. Like, how do I do social media to make it really work? You know what I mean? Things like that. And then that's where I will step in, which is, both of them work well. It's a lot of fun. And, the thing is with festivals, it is a huge undertaking. I notice I don't do many nightclubs and bars at all. Like, I have a few, like 4, because they're now longtime friends and I help them out and they pay well and it's great. But for the most part, it's an industry where, the owners or managers do it themselves, or they want to do it themselves, whether they don't want to spend the money, don't think they can do it. And some of them do well and some of them don't, right? Yeah. And so festivals, they understand it's a huge undertaking and it's bigger than them. So they need people to execute for them, which is really nice to be in a position like that where you can be a team. It's not one guy thinking he can do everything and then it slips up and then it fails, right? I hate to see businessmen fail because of that. But that does happen in many other small businesses. You know what I mean? Trying to do everything at once and not seeing weaknesses or just time restraints as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, well, okay, so I do a lot of Kickstarter stuff, and I work with a lot of people who do like crowdfunding type campaigns. And when I was reading through your biography and looking at different things you do, like really launching a concert or, selling tickets for a concert is basically the exact same thing as running a crowdfunding campaign. Because you got to get this crowd to buy in, to buy it, to share it with their friends. What is one of the biggest things you focus on when you start doing marketing for a concert? Like, how do you find the right people who want it, and how do you get them to buy it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is definitely a crowd-funded mentality. Now, first of all, before I answer the question, Kickstarter is a very dangerous website for me. I feel like it's like Black Friday, on Amazon or Boxing Day. Every time I go on Kickstarter, I'm like, oh man, this is a great product too. Oh, it's just $100, it's nothing. You know what I mean? I feel like I have to buy everything on that place.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such amazing ideas. I love it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But back to the question at hand.
Yeah, definitely.
You're right. It is a crowd-funded mentality where you have to round up all these people to pay into something, and they receive an experience and an event back for it, and that's what's going to fund the whole thing. Now, years ago, let's say you do a concert and it's going to be let's make it easy, a $10,000 show, very inexpensive, and you're going to have a DJ come out where they're going to want to deposit maybe 50%. You might have the room bookings, but then you want to sell tickets. And then those tickets are going to come into your bank account, and that is going to feed you to not only pay off the deposit, but even the remainder for the day of, and all the remainders. The tickets are supposed to pay for everything. And nowadays, it's not happening as much anymore. People are very last minute. There's still some shows that sell out right away, but not everybody. There's a lot of shows that are very last minute. Festivals are like that too a lot, especially when it's weather dependent. They might wait day of, you know what I mean, to see if they want to go. So it becomes very scary and risky because you literally have to put your own money in, hoping that the very end result, that all the money you did put in gets paid back and then some, right? So it's a very risky business. But
yeah, definitely.
To really pinpoint the answer, there's a market for everything, right? Especially being in the internet world, there is a market for every style of music or every product out there. Now, it depends on how big that market is, and that's when you're a very businessman or a marketing guy to identify, in this city, do we have an EDM market big enough to host or bring people that are 30,000? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where it comes down to. Once you know that the market size is there, then it becomes an experience-oriented marketing campaign. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of – I see nightclubs do this and fail over and over again because they make those very nice-looking flyers that I used to hand out at 17. They used to put on the car. They make the same ones with all this text and one obvious clip art girl on it. And they post it on Facebook over and over again, and people don't want to see it anymore. They're sick of that, right? We all got sick of it on the car. And we threw it on the ground. So it's the exact same thing right now, except digital version. And so they're not succeeding because of that. And they wonder why. And the reason is because people want to be connected to an experience now. What are you going to put on that flyer that makes me really want to go that I haven't seen from the guy beside you anymore? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
You want to show photos of the event. You want to show the people involved in the event. You want to show a big level of experience. And that's where people are going to get connected. Same with musicians. I talk to musicians and say, okay, you're a great hip hop artist. So is that guy and that guy. Or you're an awesome DJ. Well, so is that guy and that guy. But now the world's big enough. What makes you the person that this customer wants to connect with, right? And that's where social media
that makes a lot of sense.
And makes it really, really strong. If you do it well, then the world's your oyster, right?
Yeah. So what are some of the tricks you get people that you show people, or that how you teach them to connect with their audience?
I think the biggest thing that everybody misses is knowing their own brand voice, right? And that's where it comes down to the same, let's say, nightclub flyer that looks the same as the other. I've heard umpteen radio station ads that's sophisticated ladies' night on Friday, and I don't even know which club this is for because they all sound the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
They're all trying to be the same thing. And again, you're not distinguishing yourself from anybody else, and there's nothing different about you. That's the biggest mistake a lot of businesses make, not just entertainment industry. They don't have a brand voice. They don't know who they really are. I mean, I used to go in and consult clubs and say, so do you have more male or female? And they would say 50-50. Do they drink more vodka or tequila or rum? Well, it's kind of all over the board. Then I'd say, whoa, go look at your read, because I bet you it's not as all over the board as you think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And kind of vodka, when it's literally 80% vodka here, which brand? Because one brand's going to be different than another brand. Look at Corona and Dos Equis. The commercials are very different. They're both Mexican beers and summery beers. One is most interesting man in the world, and it's a funnier commercial. And
definitely.
And the other one is beach, relaxing, Serenity style water, and it's very different brands.
Yeah.
So you have to know, you know what I mean, your brand voice so that you can go out and when you post on social media and make your ads and things like that, it has a voice to it. And that's one of the biggest things that everybody forgets. They just glaze that over. Oh, I'm a flower shop, so we're going to make good flowers. Okay, and then what? Do you know what I mean? If that's all you are, flower shop right beside you can open and kill you. You know what I mean? Like, what is it that's going to, distinguish yourself from the next guy, other than I'm hoping you have great customer service. Otherwise, you're dead in the water then. But if you do, well, why is the guy beside you can't do the same thing? Do you know what I mean? Like, why can't he also have great customer service? What is making you different, right?
Yeah. So how do you figure out the brand voice? Because that's one thing that I'm struggling with, is finding out what is my brand voice. And maybe that's a bad question to have, but it just seems like it's kind of a hard thing to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question to have because most people don't even ask it. And that's the first stumble, right?
Yeah.
So for any business or even yourself, you want to figure out, so for me, I'm talking to you like this. If I bumped into you on the street or at a conference, I would talk to you like this too. The way I'm posting, and I use a couple of emojis that are my favorite, and it sounds like me. If you read my book, I didn't polish it so much that it sounded like a textbook. You read it and it sounds like me. So I get my brand voice is just very easygoing, but very smart, right? Like I understand the very intricate tactics of social media marketing, let's say, but we can talk about hockey or football and you can feel like I'm just talking normally, almost dumbing it down idea. I'm not being, overbearing in the answers, but very smart. So that's my brand voice. So, again, a nightclub or a musician, like are they going to be political as a musician? Are they, like Kanye's got his the way his brand voice is way different than 50 Cent, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same with different DJs, right? There's going to be very different DJs. Some are very loving and easygoing, and some of them are very strict as DJ brand voice. So, I mean, you figure out who you are as a personality, and if you're just your original personality is what you want to be. There are some that create a brand voice. So when I work for festivals, they're not all like me. I create different brand voices. Like one of the festivals is extremely loving and like they're part of the family and friends. And if you say something on social media, my response to you will be like a buddy is talking to you. And I'll even jab some shots at you and fun loving, you know what I mean? And that's the brand voice. And the cool thing with that one was when stuff hits the fan, because something happens all the time, your people are like your friends and they have your back too. So when the very few complain about something, you have other people coming in and they have your back because they're like, it's like you as a buddy made a little mistake. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's
definitely.
That brand voice. So you really have to figure out who you want to be. So if it's a store or you're a service, if that was a person, what kind of person would that be, right? And how would they talk and how would they act if you're talking to a person instead of a whole festival or flower shop, for example, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really just kind of finding what makes your brand tick, I guess, right? What connects you to your customers and really exploring that then?
Yeah, because branding and marketing are very different, right? I know they're like cousins, but very different. And everybody thinks branding is your logo and your colors and your website. And those are parts of branding. But really, branding is people's perception of you, right? So if you don't like a certain soft drink all of a sudden because, I don't know, whatever, they did something wrong. They didn't change their logo or their colors, but now you perceive them in a negative light. So their brand is tarnished in your eyes. Right. So you like say yourself, you want how people are going to perceive you is kind of your brand. And then everything around that is going to be the little tools you use. So, my brand is kind of cool and edgy. So if you go to my website, it says, I strategize and create marketing like a boss. Like, so it's fun. But it's like, it's very cool looking, right? It's a great looking site. Same with my social media, things like that. When I write my articles, they're very quick and they're short, but they get to the point. And it's like me and you saying, hey man, I have a cool idea. And that's what it's like, right? It's not this long drawn out tactical blog. And that's my brand, right? So it's how people perceive me. And that's kind of where you want to be as well, yourself or anybody listening too. How are they perceiving your business or yourself as a brand, and how do you want to portray that? And marketing is a whole other conversation because that's now advertising and social media to get your brand out there, right?
Yeah, definitely. So when you look around and you look at like companies that have the different marketing they do, which brand or which company does the best, in your opinion, of really, getting that brand message across, using that voice?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. There's some small ones as well that do a great job. Like there's a small, it's like a plates and Corningware company that just has a great fresh brand. Oh man, I can't remember the name now. Now you got me on the spot. But they do a cool job. Like every day they post something on they're a fun brand. You could use these and make yourself some eggs this morning, or hey, you don't have this particular item in your cupboard, right? That kind of fun stuff. So it's a great brand. Taco Bell does fun stuff too. They're very fun loving. We all know Apple's a very strong brand. The funny thing with Apple being a strong brand is because they've built the community and the culture, the wanted items, and they don't really do social media at all. Like they don't do social media at all, which is really weird. It's polarizing to say, where's Apple's accounts? Like we don't hear anything from Apple directly off social. But they built such a brand, you know what I mean? A legacy that people jump to them, and they like have to be. It's like I think they treat themselves like a fashion company. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to have this, even though they're Androids and Samsungs are great as well, and so are Apple products. But some people just have to gravitate to Apple because it's also a fashion and statement item. They're both expensive. They're both fantastic, but people line up down the block to get an Apple device, not necessarily Android. Even though sometimes Androids are better.
Yeah.
I have an iPhone, and sometimes I'm like, man, how come we can't get that feature?
Exactly. Yeah.
But I don't line up to go get one. But I see, hundreds of thousands, millions of people do that. And the new iPhone will come out, and it probably won't be as great as next year's. And that's the story we're hearing. And people will still line up to get it, because they've built such brand legacy. Now, if they keep messing things up year after year after year, they'll chip away at that. Slowly, people will say, well, wasn't that good? And then they'll stop buying. But they built such a strong brand, it takes a long time for them to wreck that brand as well, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So when if you meet someone and you get hired by a musician and they want you to help them do marketing and branding, and you're trying to help them figure out their voice, is there do you just sit down and talk to them? Do you send them off with a sheet of paper? Like, what's the first thing what's your first go-to step in helping them develop that?
Yeah, it is a bit of both. The first thing is literally sitting down and just talking to them for a little bit and explaining to them how it works and saying, let's pull up some of your favorite acts, some of your favorite musicians, hip hop or pop or country or whatever they are. And let's look at their Instagrams and let's start identifying, oh man, even though they posted 6 different things, one was about coffee, one was about being in the studio, one was about something, you can start looking at, but they all are saying it the same way. And we start going through them. And then say, now you're doing some of this here, but maybe not here. Maybe Instagram is pretty good, but maybe your Facebook's all over the map. But can you see the difference now? And you can see engagement. And then, they can realize what's really going on and how it's working. And they can kind of get that aha moment. And then I say, so just think about who you want to be. And some people may want to remove things. They say, I want to be myself, but I don't want to talk about politics, even though I might be strong about it, but it really has nothing to do with me as a musician, so I'm going to not even talk about it, or this or that. And then they'll just, carve away at stuff and say, this is my brand voice. And I know exactly what to say. And it's easier to say stuff every day on social media when you know your voice. Otherwise, you're thinking, you're struggling to come up with stuff, right? Because you're like, I don't know what to say today, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because that's one of the hardest things with social media is coming up with something to say every day.
Right.
Like something interesting every day, because I post on social media twice a day, and I ran out of things to say 3 months ago.
To me, in my experience with Twitter, I still use Twitter a lot when I'm engaging back and forth. But you'll notice I'm not posting outwards a lot at all. It's a lot of response to people. And I'm really tired of going on there and getting the automated. When I follow somebody, you get the automated response in your message. Please download my free ebook, and it's like, just because I followed you, I want to engage with you. It's not necessarily working to get, and it's not just me now. It's a lot of people doing that. And I've been on podcasts, and I don't know if you do that or not, but it's starting to lose its ground, right? And, and even with the automation, I've had a handful, even in the last 3 weeks, of people pushing out every hour a retweet or an article, and they're automating like crazy, and they don't respond in their threads. And I've even seen ads that actually talk about their automation service, and somebody goes in there and they respond, or they talk about the competition, and a week later, nobody responds. And then I go on and say, man, this is the exact dangers of auto response. You're not even paying attention. And seeing as this was 3 weeks ago and you're still not responding, this is exactly the reason why people need to be careful automating, because we're bashing you right now and you are not paying attention because you automated, you set it and forget it. All of that stuff is really dangerous in social media. And you're right, it's tough. Yeah. It's tough to figure out what to say, but you've got to be involved. You can't just walk into a room of 1,000 people and hand out your business cards and don't engage with anybody. And you know what I mean? And people are talking to you, you just ignore them and think that's going to work. Same thing happens on social media, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that analogy you said of walking into a room with 1,000 people and only handing out your business cards is something really is a real problem, I think, with people on social media, because they don't realize how much it takes to engage each individual person. It takes more than just like a good photo and some silly caption. It takes like work. You got to get out there. You got to talk to them. You got to be to get them to want to be involved with your company, your music act. It takes a lot of work.
It does. And, I think many people, depending on maybe age range, stuck into an older marketing mentality. Again, when you did radio or print or yellow pages or handing out flyers or whatever it is, it was a push out medium. And there was really no engagement unless somebody actually came to your event or gave you a call because they wanted to do business. And now they're kind of half sold. So you'll answer the phone, you'll do stuff, right? But there was no engagement. So if I heard a radio ad, and it doesn't matter what industry it is, I can't like yell back at the radio and ask a question or be a part of the community at all. So when we're doing social media, a lot of people do the exact same thing. Right? They're just pushing out. Here's my article. Yeah. I'm awesome. Here's my ebook. This is a great content for you. And it's just push out. Except people want to respond sometimes and they want to engage in things and maybe they want to be part of the conversation. And like I said, and like, you reiterated, if you walk into a room and all you're doing is handing out your business card or a flyer and then people are actually talking back to you and you just sit there and ignore them, like that's what you're doing on social and that's not working, right? So people, and it's work. Look, back in the day, again, we wrote a check to radio. Here's $2,000. They even wrote the ad for us. I mean, we didn't even have to do the ad. So they did all that for us and put it on air, and then people just showed up. So a ton of that marketing was cut out. Big companies had a little bit more focus groups, and they were actually involved in the creative process. But that small business, that entrepreneur, they just kind of left it to, hey, print, well, you make the ad for me. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And now social media, you got to do the work. You got to hustle. Yeah. You got to do it. So if you're just posting blindly every day just to do it, you're not growing, really not doing anything to help you. You might even be hurting yourself by not engaging like these companies were doing, and they're getting bashed and nobody came to their own rescue, right? Not even themselves.
Yeah. No, that makes. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's fascinating. I worked with an entrepreneur on who has a very large social media following, and she always her objective was to always control the message in the Instagram feed, the Twitter feed, Facebook feed, and always be involved with what people are saying to make sure it's going the direction that the brand wants it to. And to make sure that people are getting that experience that makes them, connects them to the brand and connects them to the product. And so I mean, that's such a powerful thing that I think so few people understand, and even fewer understand how to do it.
Yeah, and that's where, hiring the experts, or really, if you're going to do it yourself, that's fantastic. But then really spend time learning and doing it, right? A lot of people are like, well, my girlfriend or my wife or my cousin, she's 19 and she's on all over that Snapchat thing. You know what I mean? So she'll do it. So you're going to trust your entire marketing arm to somebody who, and hey, they might be really smart because they are millennial or Generation Z and they do get it, but they know how to use it. There's a difference between, having a hammer and nails and say, I can do hammer and nails, but now I have no blueprint on how to build the house. Yeah. Right? There's a whole difference on strategy and tactics. She might know how to do a snap and make a filter or work with Instagram, but does she know the user behavior behind each platform? Right? That's a whole different ball game, right? And you can learn it and you can test it out and figure out your own audience. Absolutely. And then do it though, right? You're going to be up. I'm up 3-4 in the morning most of the times because I'm learning and reading blogs and watching YouTube and doing things and engaging with people from all over the world so that I get it, right? As opposed to just my one post at 9 a.m. because this article said it was my best time and then I forget about it till the next morning.
Yeah.
well, you're not doing social media, right? You're screwed, really, at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you really got to be, like you said, you got to be engaging. You got to be grinding and doing the work.
And the internet's a great equalizer, like I always say. So when you're doing that, that's when you can make things happen without, and same with musicians. You don't need the major label all the time. When you can grind it out and you can hustle and you can make noise yourself, the labels will come in and help with some dollars and some of their connections. And of course, they're great to have. But it doesn't mean if you don't get that deal, you're dead in the water and your career's over. I know lots of people, and I've read about lots of people making millions without a major label deal because they get the landscape of the internet. But again, a lot of people have their passion in one end, but then get lazy in the other side. Either don't want to hire that other side out, they don't want to do that other side, and they're like, well, man, I'm the best musician out there, or, oh, man, I'm the best flower guy out there. I make the best websites, but then there's zero marketing and zero hustle, and they still struggle, right? And that's because they're not putting the two together.
Yeah, definitely. Very true. That's very well put. Thank you. It was almost
great.
It was kind of something I had been struggling with lately, and so I'm very glad to hear this kind of. This conversation has been awesome. It's been exactly what I needed, what I've been thinking about.
That's fantastic.
We are kind of pushing up on your time here. I don't want to take over the whole rest of your afternoon. So where can people find out more about you and about what you do if they're looking for consulting or they're just looking to really understand marketing well? How can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, I encourage people to get on my website, and of course, I'm all over social media.
Yeah.
And they're all my first and last name, which is Louie Lavella, and that's spelled Louiellavella. So, yeah, louielavella.com. I have my blog on there, and they can check that out and learn from that. At Louie Lavella is all over social media, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, Facebook, and all those fun things. MySpace, which I don't use anymore, but
definitely.
They're all taken. But and that's where I post a lot, and also what I do, so my Instagram it leans towards a lot of the social proof stuff. Like, here I am at my festival. Here's 30,000 people, and here is this, and some great quotes and sound bites that makes sense. And Facebook's a lot of my articles or sharing articles that I think resonate, and my little 2 cents on why this works in our industry. So, in Twitter, I engage back and forth. So I use all three of them very, very differently, but they're all great places to interact with me. And like I said, I'm big on interaction and engagement. So absolutely feel free to reach out, anybody. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Louie. It was really a pleasure to get to talk to you and get to really pick your brain on marketing, because that's what I just did. I didn't interview you. I picked your brain. So thank you for the free consulting session.
No problem. Those are the best kind, and I appreciate you doing that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Louie. We'll talk to you later.
Too.
All right. Bye now.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. We hope you had as much fun as we did. Please share this episode and your experience with it on social media. Also, check out our sponsoring company, the Breton Company, to learn more about what we're doing there. Have a great day.